lesson, we'll be looking at the characteristics of exponential functions. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the domain, range, y-intercept, and horizontal asymptote, and verify the intercept and points of the graph using the equation. If the graph has an upward positive curve, then that means our factor, our growth factor, must be a growth, so a is greater than 1. If it's a downward negative curve, that means the factor is greater than 0, but less than 1, so it's between 0 and 1. So remember, the a in the equation is the intercept, and the b is our factor. It might be a growth factor, it might be a decay factor. A horizontal line of asymptote is when y equals, so the graph gets really, really, really close to that number, but never actually touches it. So it's typically y equals 0. For domain and range and y-intercept, the domain is typically all real numbers unless it's some kind of word problem that has constraints. Our range is the growth and decay, so that factor is it's either y is greater than 0, or you can say from y to infinity. And the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So some examples. So the amount of radioactive material in a sample is measured at the same time over a period of 7 days. The results are shown in the table. In the context of the problem, what does the value of A, 4.5, represent? Well, that's our initial amount of radioactive material. That's how much it starts when we're measuring. In the context of the problem, what does the value B equals 0.78 represent? That means the amount of radioactive material will be 78% of the day before. So we have got a decay going on. What is the domain and range? The domain is from 0 to infinity, and the range is from 0 to 4.5. State the y-intercept. So for the y-intercept, that's when x is 0. So 12 to the power of 0, that equals 1. This one is 4 times 3 to the power of 0, so 4 times 1 is 4. This is 3 times 2 to the power of 0 minus 1, so 3 times 1, because 2 to the power of 0 is 1, minus 1 equals 2. And this one is 2 times the quantity 2 to the power of 0 plus 2, so that's 1 plus 2, so that's 3 times 2 is 6. Identify the domain and range. So the domain is all real numbers, and the range is y is greater than 0. In the second one, the domain is all real numbers, and the range, again, is y is greater than 0. And the last one, the domain is all real numbers, and the range is y is less than 0, because it's decay. Solve the equation. So we want to know what x is. So to get to 16, I need to know this. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, so x has to be 4. And this one, I divide both sides by 10, so I get 3 to the power of x equals 9, so that's 3 times 3 is equal to 9, so x is equal to 2. This one I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and we get 5 to the x equals 25, so 5 times 5 is 2, so x is 25, so x is equal to 2. So how do you find the y-intercept? We substitute in 0 for x. And which form are these equations in? So the first one is slope-intercept. The second one is exponential because of the x and the exponent. And the third one is standard.